A few weeks ago, I took a very lovely trip to San Francisco from where I am in LA. And while there, my sister brought me to a store she really recommended called Scraps. It is a used arts and crafts store. Basically, it sells arts and crafts and anything you might need for it for extremely low prices. Anyway, yes, we went there and I wasn't really interested in anything apart from one corner of the store. It was a shelf of National Geographic. Ready? Okay. The iconic yellow spines of the National Geographics, and then a sign beside it that said they were all for $1 each, and the ones before 1970 or so, maybe even a little bit more recent, were just slightly more expensive, $2, something like that. And because my sister and my boyfriend Timothy were frolicking around the store, I decided to take a pretty good amount of time going through all of these National Geographic magazines, thinking to myself that it would be a really cool idea to collect the ones with the best cover and create a wall of National Geographic covers. I was inspired to do this idea from a vegan restaurant in Miami called Under the Mango Tree. I'm from a small town about 45 minutes from Miami, near the Everglades, an equestrian town, but that house is currently being renovated. So whenever I go to visit family, I stay in Miami with my parents, and very close to their place is Under the Mango Tree. In Under the Mango Tree, there is a wall of National Geographics. I really love it, and I've loved it ever since my first time being there, especially because they've got a really good selection of mystical, interesting National Geographics. And on top of that, you can pick them out and you can actually read them if you'd like, although most of the time it seems like the purpose of it is decoration. Nonetheless, when I saw the National Geographics, I was like, I want to try and attempt making a wall like that. So I'm going to go through all of them and I'm going to pick the best covers, but I'm not just going to pick the best covers, they also have to be significant to me somehow. And I went through and I picked all the best ones. Coming out of it, I don't even know, like a bunch of National Geographics. My plan was to then go through them with Timothy so we could decide on our favorite covers and only get a few of them. But when I showed them to Timothy, he said, let's just get them all. They're $1 each. And I said, you know what? Okay. So we ended up getting all the National Geographics, get this, for just $5. So yes, if you are interested in National Geographics or really any sort of old arts and crafts supplies, I highly recommend going to Scraps in San Francisco if you're in the area or near it. But yes, so now I have this massive National Geographic collection. I've had it for a couple weeks now and I've been very excited about it. I'm still deciding how I want to use it for decor because it is so appealing to me, especially when you see all the covers side by side. But at the same time, I really want to read them all because the more I've become interested in them, the more this childlike curiosity I used to have has been sparking within me. I used to be very curious about science and chemistry and the universe and insects and plants when I was a child. And some of that was lost because I didn't actually enjoy science class. I felt that it extracted everything interesting about science and kind of just ruined it by explaining why those things were so interesting. Instead, I just wanted mostly to marvel at them and be fascinated by them. And I mean, the thing that made me, one of the things that made me fall in love most with science was a Halloween chemistry lesson my school did where the science teachers, a bunch of women, got together and they dressed as witches and they did a chemistry experiment that ended up in a fuzzing bubble flurry of something, I don't know, and it basically was magic. literally is, and I was very excited about it. I remember I was like in my kitchen with a little towel around me, like trying to make stuff happen, you know. But yeah, I lost that interest a little when it felt like science was or became a subject void of that mystery, and it became about explaining things. I didn't so much want to explain things as much as I wanted to be fascinated by them and curious. And that's why, you know, instead I fell in love with history and art and all these things that embrace the magic qualities of life. Or at least that's how I felt when I was a kid. But looking at these National Geographics has really, really sparked my interest and curiosity about nature and the earth and cultures and all these really fascinating things that I just like have nothing to do with. It's just really cool. I'm finding to learn about them and have a little bit more knowledge just because you read an article or something or you saw a photograph. That's another thing. The photographs in these books I adore, especially some of them are all film photographs because they're from maybe like 1975, and it's just, I'm blown away by how good these photographs are and just how much value these books really hold, especially being that I got them for less than $1. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys my National Geographic collection. I got all of these at the store I mentioned, and so far I've gone through and read one of them. I want to read more of them, but I'll show you guys what I've got, and yeah, we're gonna do a little exploration and maybe get curious, you know? Look at all these. They're actually quite heavy. This is my National Geographic collection. I've got quite a bit. I'm gonna do a little thumbnail. I got something. All right. So I've been wanting to do this video for a bit, but what really sparked it was yesterday when I was reading the first of these and kind of getting into it. I realized that the book I was holding, I only realized this right at the end of reading it, is exactly to the month 50 years old. This was made in June 1975, this National Geographic. And right now it is June 2025, and I just think that's the coolest thing ever. I'm really debating because I bookmarked it because there were some really fantastic photographs I'm considering cutting out and framing, although at the same time I'm like, I don't want to ruin it, but at the same time, like, I want these photos to be seen. So I don't know, but this is volume 147, number 6, June 1975. The beginning of this one is a lot about Alaska, but the reason I got it is because it has an entire article about the spirit of Spain. And I'm Spanish. I'm Spanish, Cuban, and Irish. Oh, yeah, a little bit of Jewish somewhere, but I'm not really familiar with that part of me, but with an emphasis on Spain because most of my ancestors came from Spain, and I grew up just calling myself Cuban because that's where my grandparents came from. But when I was a teenager, my parents basically naturally, like, it all goes back to Spain. We visited Spain when I was 15 years old. It was the first time I went to Europe, and the more times I go to Europe, the more I realize I really like Spain. I love all of them, but before going to Europe, I thought, and I still do, feel a very strong connection to London or Paris, but there's this really stunning line in here. Let me find it for you guys. I hope I'm pronouncing everything right. In the year AD 900, when Paris was a Bashan island, Madrid a Moorish fortress, and London a stockade fighting for its life against Viking raiders, Cordoba boasted a population of 500,000 miles of paved streets and a library of 400,000 books. That made me emotional. I actually cried reading that. I don't know why, I've been very sensitive and easily brought to tears by just things like that recently. Before this, I was looking at a history of libraries in the US and I was crying at that as well. But following that with this made me cry even more because if you don't know, I love books. They're a part of me. And just to hear that this city in Spain already had a library of 400,000 books while Paris was just an island makes you really consider the fact that where you're from is often a lot cooler than where you think you want to be from. Not that Paris isn't great, I obviously love Paris, but there's so many beautiful things in here. I found this passage to be especially lovely, and I'm also considering doing maybe a video on researching where you come from, but I read this and I thought it was beautiful. There are 6 of them, and they have a name like a poem. Los Campaneros de la Aurora, the bell ringers of the dawn. You can find them at 4 o'clock any Sunday morning in the streets of Ariete, an Andalusian village of 4,000, lost somewhere in the mountains between Sierra Morena and the sea. As they have for perhaps 1,000 years, the Campaneros drift out of the purple night to the sound of bells, cymbals, and a guitar. They pause before the dwellings of those who have given alms and sing anthems, older than memory, to Ariate's patrons, the Virgin of the Dawn. Twice I joined the Campaneros, I hope I'm saying it right, on their rounds. They shared their flask of anise, a fiery licorice-flavored liquor that protects them from the pre-dawn chill. Who are they? A barber, a teacher, a blacksmith, a cobbler, a farmhand, a wine merchant. Why do they serenade the sleeping village? Because, hombre, the barber said over an Andalusian breakfast of fresh warm bread dipped in olive oil. This has always been done. Ariete is a very old town, but even before it existed, our forefathers were campaneros. We must continue the tradition. A reverence for tradition, I found, pervades virtually every aspect of life in Andalusia, Spain's southernmost region. We treasure the old ways, explains a Sevillano, because they express accumulated wisdom. We treasure the old ways because they express accumulative wisdom. In this plastic age, where else can you search for mankind's soul? This is 1975, mind you, an era so many of us now glorify as being a lot more of the soul and less, say, obsessed with our phones, which I think says a lot. I do think throughout every era, we've always been looking to the past to find what was right. But I do think at the same time, there's some truth in looking to the past. But I do think that truly is now more important than ever. But it's just full of beautiful things that made me feel so connected to where I'm from. I'm thinking about possibly copying some of these photographs because they're just phenomenal, and putting them on some sort of, I don't know, Pinterest board with details to where the photo came from. By the way, this article was written by Howard LaFay with photographs by Joseph J. Churchill. Beautiful photographs. I mean, it's stunning. This is pretty funny also. There was, an ad. I thought this was the funniest ad here. He's receiving his film photographs from the mailman. He's like deep trekking in the jungle. Reminds me of the Jungle Cruise. There's another article in here about the first good view they got of Venus and Mercury. And I remember reading it in rap, like what? And then I really put it into perspective that this is a 50-year-old article. I don't even know what you guys know now. You know, astronomers. But that's so cool that you got photographs of those planets. And also now I want to do like a video on Venus or something, and both the mythology and symbolism of Venus as well as scientific facts, because Venus is the planet of the Libra and love. So I'm fascinated by that as well. But anyway, this is the one I read yesterday. Let's go on to the next in my collection. So this next one is obviously a painting by Picasso, who is also Spanish, although I'm not really that big of a fan of Picasso, if you know, he's kind of a player. But also, you know, he's great and his friends were really cool. So it looks like this entire one is about Picasso. This is a much more recent one. This is from May 2018. There's just something that the film photographs have that digital photographs don't have. For example, if this photograph was taken on film, it would be so much more enticing, I think. I don't think that's romanticizing the past. I truly think there is something to the essence of film photographs that feels a lot more authentic and genuine, and I think it has something to do with the patience and time it takes to even receive the photo back. But nonetheless, I do think this one's very cool. Okay, this is another old one. You know it's an old one when it has this on the top. This is from May 1975, so this one's even older than 50 years old. This one has the articles Life of a Baboon Troupe, Project Famous, First Look at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, Dive into the Great Rift, the Adriatic, Rhodesia, A House Divided, Province, and Mystery of the Nazca Lines. So yeah. Woo! Wow, look at this from space. Inside Alvin's cramped sphere, only 80 inches across, Arthur Ballard left and Jim Moore take notes by the light of instrument panels after making observations through 5-inch viewports. Pilot Valentine Wilson sits at his window, navigating by sight during a slow-motion 8-hour cruise across 1 mile of seafloor. Seafloor? This is a submarine. This is Project Famous. There you go. It's a submarine. You see, if I saw this on Pinterest, I would immediately think to myself, this is space. And that's kind of the issue with so many things we see today. They're just photos for the sake of aesthetic. And that's not unimportant, but it doesn't have story to it. It doesn't have soul to it. And also it's a little like discrediting to what the truth is. Because of this book, I know that this is actually a submarine voyage. Oh wow, this reminds me of Paranormal Nobodies, the show I wrote and I'm in. That's so beautiful. In summer's wake, an early frost brings autumn hues to dairy and vegetable farms of the western Lake Champlain Valley, offering a feast of geography. The lush land climbs westward to rich timber stands that cloak gentle mountains. Farther south, the rolling hills merge into a region of rugged peaks dominated by Mount Marcy. At 5,344 feet, New York State's loftiest summit, millions of visitors every year taste the variety of the Adriatic, many eager to trade city bustle for mountain solace. Oh my goodness, look at this photograph. How gorgeous is that? Look, it's a little deer. Wow, beautiful. She says, I go camping whenever I want to get away from people. My goodness. I just can't even believe how many fantastic photos there are in the older editions especially. Look at this, these two women walking across the city, carrying chairs on their heads. What does it say? Two cultures at a crossroad. A chic European and two Africans carrying reed stools to a store cross 5th Street in Salisbury, high-rising capital of Rhodesia. In the rich heart of southern Africa, whites, outnumbered 20-1, seek a meeting ground with blacks amid rising demand for majority rule. Wow. I mean, look at this photographs. Gorgeous, the rainbow, everything is better on film. Insane. Also, what a job this is, you know, to what, travel the world, writing about it or taking photographs. Oh my gosh. Look at this photograph. You have to be kidding me. That is phenomenal. What on earth? Chief Monzima Gwebu displays full ceremonial regalia in his European-style house, built and furnished for him by the government, which also pays him a salary. The chief, whose name means strong medicine, rules several hundred Nebel villagers. He relays the more serious problems of his people to the district commissioner. Rhodesia's electoral system, based on property and income, restricts those Africans who can vote. The Constitution limits their representation in Parliament. Look at this lady. Maria Ricci. For more than 25 years, she's photographed and charted Las Líneas, striving to complete a map of the hundreds of designs and figures that score a tableland some 30 miles long, threaded by the Pan-American Highway. A National Geographic Society grant now aids her work. At her desk in Lima, the German-born mathematician glances up from a chart where azimuths of lines dart off in almost all the directions of the compass. During field work, Miss Ricci sleeps on a camp cot behind her car on the rocky, grassless Peruvian pampa, rising before first light for a breakfast of grapefruit and canned milk. Despite her 72 years, she then sets to work with a zeal as relentless as the noonday sun. With the reel of tape in her left hand, she has just completed measuring one of the sides of the trapezoidal field. Seen from the air, it negotiates a hillock, then branches off octopus-like over the pampa. Miss Ricci scorns the suggestion that such markings may have been airfields for outer space visitors to Earth in prehistoric times. Once you remove the stones, the ground is quite soft, she says. I'm afraid the spacemen would have gotten stuck. The lines she's analyzing are here. I think I've actually seen them once. I was on a plane a couple years ago. Where the heck was I? Peru. Wasn't that long ago then. About 2 years ago it must have been. I was in Peru, and I think we looked at these lines from a plane. Yes, they look very alien-like, but it sounds like she doesn't agree with that theory, unfortunately. I don't really think that makes them any less marvelous. Look, this one looks like a little girl. Very cool. The advertisements as well were so cool. All right, next National Geographic is this one. A lovely woman sitting on a couch. This is volume 175, number 3, March 1989. This one has the articles Above China, Faulkner's Mississippi, Wildlife Quest to South Georgia, Indian Burial Grounds, Who Owns Our Past, and Trap Jaw Ants, which sounds so fascinating. Whoa, look at this photo. Wow, my back is hurting quite badly. Frozen for a moment like characters in a drama, friends and relatives of blues musician Junior Kimbrough relax at his home outside Holly Springs. late on a Sunday afternoon. That's all any story is, Faulkner said. You catch this fluidity, which is human life, and you focus a light on it, and you stop it long enough for people to be able to see it. Faulkner wrote movingly about blacks and was deeply concerned about race relations in the South, but he was acutely aware of the invisible barrier between blacks and whites. Wow, look at this photograph. What's so special about this, I think, is when I open a magazine nowadays, it seems as though everything is an ad to sell something else. It doesn't seem like anything is about learning anymore. And I can confidently say anymore because the only thing this is trying to sell is the magazine. For you to learn something, and then it's got ads in the beginning and ads in the end. But magazines nowadays, it seems like they're about selling an artist or a clothing brand. It seems like no photograph is taken simply because it's a great photograph. It seems like the photograph is taken as a means to an end. And the people making that photograph might be excited to create something cool, but ultimately that photograph will be deemed as good or bad based on whether it makes money or high numbers or not. What I love about these is that they're so real. They're just about being curious and exploring the world. Wow, look at this one. My goodness. Sally and Jerome braved the cold aboard Zamian 2, far from their winter home in the Falkland Islands. Often working with the British Antarctic Survey, they strived to increase the body of knowledge about South Georgia's animal life. I didn't even know South Georgia had a sea like that. I used to live in Georgia. Oh, I suppose actually near, look at this. Look at this, it's a baby in a submarine. It says, high-tech lookout protected Sally and infant Dion in 1979 as Damien II rounded Cape Horn. Made of strong plastic, the dome provides welcome shelter during watches for icebergs and ships. The Ponsets have made numerous visits to South Georgia for as long as 4 months at a time, adapting well to the pressures of proximity among a family of 5 within the confines of a 50-foot yacht. A family that lives in a yacht. Wow. Oh my goodness, look at all these penguins. Oh my, oh my. Look at this photograph. So cool. Fierce winds assault a visitor to the whaling station of Greitiken. Founded in 1904, a church dismantled in Norway and reassembled in 1913 has withstood the elements far better than a cinema built in 1931 during summer. The population swelled to 1,000 whalers and support personnel. Some 175,000 whales were killed and rendered before the station was abandoned in 1966. My goodness. Wow. What a photograph. Bookmarking that. Something about these photographs from the 80s that are just so cool. Okay, next one I have is right here. This is August 2011. It doesn't even have an edition. I guess they stopped doing that or something. The wildest place in North America, land of the spirit bear. This one has articles, Pipeline Through Paradise, Robots Get Real, A Multitasking Monkey, Behind Burma's Shadows, and South Africa's Fossil Find. So right here, the photos have gone digital. Except some of these photos, I do think this might still be digital. Possibly. Some of them seem, it also seems like it might be a mix. This does seem digital, but like a very phenomenal digital camera. Yeah. There's a line here that says, sophisticated robots may soon cook for us, fold our laundry, even babysit our children. And this says, with no human coach at the controls, Virginia Tech's robot soccer team dribbled past and scored its way into the 2010 Robot Cup. Kids-size semi-final in Singapore, the tournament's founder's goal is a robot team that will defeat the human World Cup champs by 2050. What? What? I didn't even know that existed in 2011. Oh, this is deeply disturbing and not cute at all. Creepy yet cute, Osaka University's 4-foot-tall child robot with biomimetic body is designed to learn like a child by watching and interacting with humans. Childhood development is increasingly the model for robotic intelligence, bypassing the need to laboriously program a robot for every likely situation. Is this AI? I did not know this type of technology existed in 2011. Because this must be AI if the robot is capable of learning, no? Someone who knows more than me, comment below, because oh, this is so scary. Robots are making forays into the treacherous terrain of human mental states and emotions. Linked through a computer, the humanoid Barthok and a pair of robotic hands team up to learn from humans at Germany's Bielefeld University. The hands are being trained how to grasp different fruits, while Barthok provides a face for the researchers to address, a key part of human communication. Look at that. Freak is this? Look at this photograph. This is a great photograph. The picture on the cell phone at right is of Aung San Suu Kyi, leader of the opposition party, the National League of Democracy, and a revered figure in Myanmar. Those who display her image risk harassment. At left is Swedish model actress Victoria Silvstedt, an icon of a different sort. Man, it is really difficult saying a lot of these words. Hidden gem right here. It's a very good photograph. Another great photograph. Okay, next one is of one of my favorite women ever, Jane Goodall. I did a project on Jane Goodall when I was in 3rd grade. We had to give a presentation / biography of someone of our choice. We were given those, like, who is XYZ. For many people, my mom helped me. She gave me a lot of different people, and Jane Goodall was the only one who was alive. And I also liked that she was a woman, so I chose Jane Goodall and read her whole Who is Jane Goodall book that young, and ever since I've been a fan of Jane Goodall. I just think she's so great. If you don't know who Jane Goodall is, I know a lot of people don't. I just happen to because of that story, thankfully, but she has done incredible work with the chimpanzees. I'm pretty sure it's the chimpanzees. And it looks like this entire National Geographic is an ode to her. There are articles called Can Dubai Go Green, Vanishing Arctic Culture, and the Trophy Hunt Debate. But beyond that, it's just the making of an icon, becoming Jane. This is from October 2017. Let's see what they've got on here. This is another more modern one. But oh my goodness! Look at this photograph. The shooter as subject, Hugo, here enjoying a cigar while hanging from a gombe tree, was a perfectionist, much to Jane's frustration. He wouldn't photograph even remarkable chimp behavior if the light and exposure weren't right. Oh my goodness. Always innovating, Hugo scattered sand from the beach on the ground at Gombe's feeding station because it reflected light into the chimps' faces. Jane eventually got a Super 8mm camera so that she could film chips at any moment, regardless of the lighting. What an icon. Oh my goodness. Oh, how beautiful is that? Actually just got my own Super 8mm camera, thankfully, and it feels great. Got the entire timeline of Jane's career here, beautifully illustrated by Joe McKendry from the Jane Goodall Institute. That's the source. I actually follow them on Instagram. I highly recommend you do as well. And this is one of the most iconic photos here of Jane. Flint was the first infant born at Gombe after Jane arrived. With him, she had a great opportunity to study chimp development and have physical contact, which is no longer deemed appropriate with chimps in the wild, which is probably one of the reasons why this is such an iconic photograph. So cool. Ooh, this is a great photo. I'm actually on the back. The next one is from August 2022, Stonehenge Revealed. I actually visited Stonehenge 1 year after this was released. Almost like I visited in I think July or June 2023. So, and I've been to Stonehenge once, and I've been to the area twice at this point in just that amount of time, which is like 2 years or something. It's a very, very special place. It truly is a spiritual hub more than it is just a cool historic place to visit. So I highly recommend everyone visiting. But this one has the articles Horseshoe Crabs, India's Energy Challenge, and Big Bend National Park. Apart from that, it sounds like it's mostly about Stonehenge. Thankfully, if you don't know what Stonehenge is, it is this. A series of these massive, massive rocks that no one exactly knows how they got there, and no one exactly knows what they're for. Some theorize they're about telling time, and lots of people have theorized they were put there by aliens or giants or whatever it might be. I highly doubt that National Geographic supports that theory, but truth be told, nobody knows yet the story of them. And when I went there as more of a spiritual trip, a spiritual journey, and I got this opportunity, I remember, as everyone is packing out of the area center, because you can go in if you book it. Everyone was packing out, and for a very small sliver of a moment, I could have been the only person to be standing in Stonehenge right at the center. There's a very heavy wind in there. I remember I was trying to follow the wind as I was in there, going in and out of the rocks. I just remember feeling intense energy, be it wind, be it something else, that said, don't. It's not right. It's not right to be the only person at one moment in time standing at the center of such an important spiritual hub. It's just not right. And so I didn't go in there. But I didn't go in there as I left. I went with the rest of the party, and I didn't, it felt like hogging something, so I didn't do it. But let's go through this one. It looks like somebody did some sort of rendering of Stonehenge, possibly before it degraded over time. The prehistoric cluster of standing stones known as Stonehenge has intrigued and mystified observers for centuries. The impressive monument has drawn millions of visitors to England's Salisbury Plain. Throughout our publishing history, National Geographic has brought images and stories of Stonehenge to readers in new and exciting ways. The magazine's very first picture of the megaliths is the black and white aerial photos to the right. To the right? I see. This is what I see to the right. An ad for cat litter. Oh, okay. I guess that is supposed to be black. This is supposed to be black and white, apparently. It looks kind of green to me, but okay. Published in May 1922. It was made possible by the cutting-edge technology of that era, the airplane. For this issue's cover story, we deployed the latest tools to bring you Stonehenge as you've never seen it. We assigned 2 inventive photographers. Alice Zhu documented people's connection to Neolithic sites, and Reuben Wu turned landscapes into otherworldly realms steeped in mystery. Then we decided to go further, to create an immersive, high-resolution 3D model of the site using photogrammetry. We enlisted National Geographic explorer and photographer Martin Estrom. He and his team flew a drone to make more than 7,000 images of the site from all angles and process them into the digital replica you see at the top of the page. We've been pushing the boundaries of storytelling for 134 years, and I'm pleased to share our latest work with you. Yep, that is awesome. Oh, it was a 100-year anniversary. How special. Look at this. How awesome is that? This is in Istanbul. I took an entire class on Istanbul when I was in my first year of college. And it's so fascinating. I didn't even know what Istanbul was before I took the class. It was Constantinople, for those who don't know. But as for Stonehenge, another thing I want to mention is that it's actually known as the heart chakra of the world for those who are interested in spirituality in that way. That's why it's a very popular hub. Basically, the theory is that there are different chakras of the world, be it the, crown, third eye, the throat, heart, solar plexus, so on and so forth. It's believed that there are different parts of the globe that honor these chakras almost as if the earth also had them, the way we have them. And you can go to these different locations to be more connected to that chakra. And Stonehenge, or that general area, I think that the Tor in Glastonbury was also honored as being part of that heart chakra. But yes, so when I went, it was both the heart chakra and the third eye, because the third eye changes after a certain amount of time. I'm not sure if it's a year or maybe half a decade or something like that, but it was both. And that's also why I felt it would be wrong to stand in the center that time when I decided not to. Like, I would be standing in the center of the heart chakra, the only one. It was not right. It's not right. I'm glad I didn't do it, but it was cool to even be that, it was cool. Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at this entire set of photographs. Wow. They really went off with this one, especially for 2022. They were playing a prank on their schoolmates in Istanbul. A bus-sized hunk of space junk hit our moon. Pinpointing the location is no small feat. What? What do you mean? hurts, you guys. Yeah, see, so this is kind of what I'm talking about here. Stonehenge being a very spiritual hub. I don't feel that I knew it was until recently. There's something here that says, in 18th century, Anglican priests promoted the idea that Britain's megaliths were temples built by ancient Druids, a notion now long disproved. But modern-day Druids feel a special connection to the stone circles, where they gather for rituals marking the cycle of the season. Raising a sword for peace, not war, a Druid priestess rite blesses the attendees during a summer solstice celebration at Stanton Drew, where the congregation includes a herd of cows, modern versions of the religious focus on reverence for the natural world, and veneration of ancestors, including the builders of Britain's ancient monuments. Stonehenge attracts up to 1.6 million visitors a year, yet many connect with the structure in personal ways. For Launder Gary Forrester and his baby daughter Vivian, it was forging a connection with the earth by removing their shoes and walking barefoot on a warm late summer evening. People like to see sights that have endured over time and come through many rises and falls in the story of humanity, says Nicola Tasker with English Heritage, the charitable organization that oversees the monument. The next one is another older one. Traveler's Map of Spain and Portugal, volume 166, number 4, October 1984. The articles it has are following the route of Cortez, Iberia's vintage river, and pollen, breath of life and sneezes. That sounds like the main one. And then there's the Mayoris, at home in two worlds, treasures of the tradition, and your society's newest building. Look how awesome this cover is. I mean, how cool is that? It's so cool. Like, it's so cool. A shy onlooker gazes at passerby on the Camino Real near Ixhuacan de los Reyes. In a region of heavy rains, farmers hang beans from the roof and tack skins to the wall to dry. This is another one that has to do with Spain. So, hands taught by traditional shape Indian style pottery in a farmhouse near the town of Zalta, as grandmother sits nearby stripping corn from cobs and grinding. Outside in the dusty courtyard, the potter's husband leads a horse in circles to pulverize clay needed for her work. As Aztec potters did, she builds up the sides of her bowls with clay strips rather than using a potter's wheel. The Zalta area has been known for its pottery for centuries. Wow. Iberia's vintage river, taken by Stephanie Mays. Look at this. Look at this. These guys posing. These are, that's a group of traders called the Confraria do Vino do Porto from 1982. Look at this. This is on pollen. It says, blessed by Cattell pollen, Cora Night is showered with the powder during a coming-of-age rite celebrated by the White Mountain Apaches in Arizona. Pueblo and Navajo tribes also use pollen in ritual dances and healing ceremonies. Pollen, the beautiful, is force within us. It is a fit gift for the gods. The late Navajo medicine man Fred Stevens Jr. told the author. Artist Wolfgang Laib sifts pollen through a sieve and shapes a rectangle on the floor of his studio in West Germany. Leib's pieces last the duration of an exhibit, then are brushed into a jar. The impermanence of my art doesn't matter, says Leib, who is internationally recognized in art circles. The important thing is that pollen is eternal. It is the center of life. So he does art shows where the entire center is filled with a floor of pollen. Wow. These men belong to the Ngati Porou, a major tribe among some 40 in New Zealand, where Maoris make up about 1/10 of the population of 3,100,000. Again, I know I'm probably pronouncing so many things wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Dang, Kodak had such cool advertisements. I mean, obviously, you know, being that it's a photograph company, but nonetheless. Oh my goodness, look at this cutie. Maybe I'll make this like a part 1, because it's getting quite long. But this next one is from December 2018, and it is about the search for sacred texts. This also has articles on Bible hunters, palm oil, Native American culture, Patagonia's pumas, and Filipino diaspora. So that's very interesting to me. On the cover, the quote is, "If you are dealing with antiquities, you must get your hands dirty." Edel Klein, Israel Antiquities Authority said that. Emma Nichols examines a Hebrew text at the Cambridge University Library, which houses some 200,000 Jewish manuscripts discovered at a medieval synagogue in Cairo. Publication of the King James Bible in 1611 set the standard for English scripture for some 300 years. This volume from the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., is one of only 2 surviving first editions of the King James Bible New Testament. Okay, I am going to take a little break because my back hurts.